Today on the DML News podcast, Donald Trump makes history with an unbelievable rally at Madison Square Garden. And Kamala Harris makes a complete fool of herself all weekend long. We're starting to see the final stretch here, and it's looking good for Trump and bad for Kamala. We're going to talk about that today in many different ways. And so get ready, because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is my oldest son, Denny, and on the controls is my youngest son, Ryan. We are family. We are here today. God, thank you for giving us this day. And it is a beautiful Monday here in Florida. It's also a beautiful day here in Trump Nation. Over the weekend, Donald J. Trump grabbed all the headlines, as he should, because Donald J. Trump should still be the president of the United States right now. That's really what it comes down to. But he's not. He's not, because cheating took place, as far as I'm concerned. That's why. No other reason why. Cheating took place. And in the same way that Donald J. Trump gave us the license to say, it's all right to be pissed off about an open border. It's all right to say that the people coming across the border are not good for America. It doesn't make you a racist. There's nothing racist about it. In the same way that there's nothing wrong to say that you feel as if something didn't come off right in the last election. How the hell did Joe Biden win? Doesn't make sense. You're really going to tell me 81 million people voted for that guy out of his basement? We had a great economy. We didn't have any wars. Everything was going so perfectly here in the United States of America. They cheated. We're going to talk about a story here on the podcast today, something coming out of Pennsylvania that proves that cheating is alive and well. But over the weekend, Donald Trump took all of the headlines, all of them. It started off on Friday. He made a 3-hour appearance on the most popular podcast in the entire world, the Joe Rogan Experience. For those of you unfamiliar with Joe Rogan, he was a television star / stand-up comedian, and he also is a commentator for the UFC, Ultimate Fighting Championship. Rogan has put a lot of time and effort into creating his new personality, which is that of the most famous podcaster. And so Trump sat down with him for 3 unfiltered hours. And it was probably the greatest interview I've ever seen Trump do. Not because he had such great answers in terms of policy. I mean, hell, they never even talked about healthcare, which is many of our largest expense that we have. Nobody talks about healthcare anymore, do they? But instead, what it is, you got the real Trump. You got the guy who cares about people. You got the guy who loves the United States of America. Joe Rogan has millions and millions and millions of followers, most of them younger men. There's no doubt in my mind that after that interview is watched 33 million times, and that doesn't include how many people listen to it, so you could add on more millions to that. There's no question in my mind that at a very minimum, Donald J. Trump picked up tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, maybe even a few million voters. Because what happened was Joe Rogan let Donald Trump speak uninterrupted. He didn't take little pieces of a sentence out. He didn't rearrange a paragraph to make it sound a certain way to fit a narrative. Instead, Joe Rogan did what a responsible journalist should do, and that is allow the candidate to speak his or her mind, unfiltered, unafraid, uninterrupted, and most importantly, unedited. I think anybody who watched that interview, and I watched all 3 hours, and think about how hard it is to sit down and watch anything for 3 hours, let alone a great movie. I watched that the entire time, and I said, this man, although not perfect, although not always straightforward in his answers because he bounces around a lot. In fact, he called it weaving. There is no better person right now for the presidency than Donald J. Trump. We have so many issues in this country. We've got open borders, wild inflation, a world that's ready to just implode, 3 potential wars, China and Taiwan, Israel and Iran, Ukraine and Russia. There's no way the United States would be able to fight in 3 wars. We need somebody who's a leader, who can stop wars from happening, who could make peace around the world happen. And we already know Trump can do that. Not because he was good in The Apprentice, not because he knows how to build a skyscraper, but because he was already president for 4 years and we already know what to expect. As if Joe Rogan's appearance wasn't enough, Trump took it another level. Trump did what Trump does best. He promoted himself. Only this time he did it in a place where you would think he wouldn't ever want to show his face. New York City. It has become a garbage can, maybe even worse, a sewer filled with rats and leeches, pickpockets, people who will kill you, throw you in front of a train and not worry about ever seeing a day in a jail cell. He has been attacked viciously through the courts, unfairly. They've tried to imprison him. They've tried to rape him of all of his money. They've tried to make it so this way he would not have any chance of running again, let alone winning the presidency in 2024. And unlike any human being I have ever laid my eyes on, whether it's in person or on television, Donald J. Trump has proven to all of us that not only should he be respected, but that he has the heart of a lion. I can't think of any other man, myself included, who would be able to withstand the nonstop beating that he has taken, and to make it worse, to pour insult on top of injury, to put salt in the wound. They did it to him in his own hometown. Now, a Republican winning New York is almost like it's snowing in Florida. It happens, but it's very rare. Don't expect it to happen. Don't get on the plane in January and bring your skis to Florida. Bring your sunscreen. But after this weekend, when Donald J. Trump said, not only am I going to host the biggest rally of my life, the most impressive political rally of all time, but I'm going to do it at the biggest arena in terms of name recognition worldwide. I'm going to do it at Madison Square Garden. I'm actually going to stick it right in their face, because although the Big Apple has turned out to be a sour apple, Donald J. Trump not only wants to fix America and make it great again, he wants to bring New York back to the thriving city that it once was. And that's what you got to love about Trump. People say bad things about him, and if you make up, you say you're sorry, he'll let you back into his world. If you kick him out and you try to throw him in jail and you try to strip him of everything that he's earned, including his respect, it's all right. He's still going to fight. And he wants to fight for New York because deep down, he loves New York more than any other city anywhere in the world. There are 20,000 people. Ryan is going to play the B-roll of this right now over my voice. Look at the images there. 20,000 people, every seat completely packed in Madison Square Garden to watch a political rally on a Sunday. Think about what Trump was competing on. Not only is it most people's day off from work, but the NFL is in full swing. Didn't matter. People put the sports to the side. They put their own personal calendars to the side. They wanted to support Trump. They wanted to support America. And that rally that you're looking at right there, there is America. There was no gimmicks. It wasn't like Kamala Harris, who over the weekend disappointed the people of Houston, Texas by lying to them, making them believe that pop star and Grammy winner sensationalist Beyonce was going to perform at her rally. Instead, Beyonce gave a 4-minute speech, lame at best, endorsing Kamala Harris and then walked off. And as the videos show, and they're all over the place, people got up and walked out. They were pissed. They were misled. That's not what happened here. Sure, there were some famous people. In fact, we're going to play a clip in a second of Elon Musk, Dana White from the UFC, Tucker Carlson, Melania Trump. In fact, one of my friends, Tiffany Justice from Moms for Liberty, opened up the entire event with a prayer. People went to that rally not to hear music. They went to that rally to support the country they love. Because we all know that this is the last hope. We all know that if for some reason Trump doesn't pull out this victory next week, the America that our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, the America they fought for is gone. The future for our children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren is over. As a country, as a society, we will go into what is known as survival mode. And when you go into survival mode, everything is upside down. You're not looking anymore to grow and to expand and have that American exceptionalism. You're just wondering where it is you're going to get your next bite, where it is you're going to get your next sip of water. Will you have enough money to pay the mortgage, to pay the car payment, to be able to live life? Amazingly, there's people who are like that right now because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. No doubt whatsoever, it's because of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Elon Musk, as far as I'm concerned, and I wrote about this in my newsletter the other day, is public enemy number 2. Donald Trump being number 1. The left wants Elon Musk destroyed because Elon Musk has done something that no Democrat would ever allow to be done, especially those in Silicon Valley. He has turned his back on this White House. He has turned his back on censorship. Unlike Mark Zuckerberg, unlike the scum at Google and the scum at Apple and the scum at Amazon and Jack Dorsey, the former scum who ran Twitter before it was purchased by Elon, Elon Musk said, this isn't right. I can't be silencing people from the left or the right. The freedom of speech is everything in America. You need to be able to say what you feel and feel what you say. And who am I to take that away from anyone? Elon Musk used to donate to Democrats. So it's an extra slap in the face to the left when they see him not only appearing at a MAGA rally, but wearing a black MAGA hat. Ryan, do me a favor. Clip number 1 is the introduction of Elon Musk. I want you to play it in a second. And I want people who are watching this, and even those who are listening, I want you to feel the energy through this video. Play it.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for the greatest capitalist in the history of the United States of America, Elon Musk.
Today, I have a meeting with the ads people at Twitter/X. And the reason why I'm doing that, the reason why I'm going to talk about spending my money on that platform is for one reason and one reason only. In the same way that I put all my effort, my money, and my time into trying to champion for Trump so this way we could get our country back, I can't just sit back and allow one man, Elon Musk, to risk all of his money and all of his freedom and all of his time in trying to get the message out by making X grow. I want to do my part by helping. Unlike a political campaign to where you could write a check and give your support, I want to support X. I want to support their growth. So I'm going to speak to them about spending my money on advertising and to promote our brand on there. Elon Musk deserves it. The other thing great about Elon Musk is that he has vowed to help Donald J. Trump when Trump wins the election. One of the biggest problems we have here in the country that nobody ever talks about because you can't see it, it's a ghost. But believe me when I tell you, it is there, is our national debt. The amount of money that we're in debt, $35 trillion, would wind up equaling out to $106,000 out of your pocket. Every single American citizen would have to pay $106,000 today to rid of the debt. It's an impossibility. I can tell you could take the money in my two sons' bank accounts and they won't hit 106. Not even close. It's an impossibility. We are drowning in debt. We are borrowing money so we could give it to Ukraine. It makes no sense to you. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense to most people. And it certainly doesn't make any sense to Elon Musk. Here's what he had to say yesterday at the rally.
You're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation. So whether it's direct taxation or all government spending, it either becomes inflation or it's direct taxation. Your money is being wasted, and the Department of Government Efficiency is going to fix that. We're going to get the government off your back and out of your pocketbook.
We're going to talk about debt. We're going to talk about money in a moment. But before we get there, as excited as we all were to see a rally of that kind, to see people come together in a liberal city, of course, the lefty media can't accept this. They're watching their lame candidate implode. A woman who never got a single vote in a primary, a person who was appointed to her position as the candidate, who's claiming that she's going to save democracy when meanwhile she took part in a coup to take the democracy away from the man who was the so-called sitting president. When you take Trump and his rally, and when you take Trump and his appearance on Joe Rogan, Donald J. Trump owned arguably the last weekend of this election season. He owns it. His popularity is skyrocketing. He is running away with this. And the left has no idea what to do. So what do they try? They try to compare Donald J. Trump to Hitler, constantly comparing him to Hitler. Hitler caused the death of 6 million Jews. He starved them. I defy you to try to fast for 48 hours. I've done it. It sucks. Imagine not being able to eat at all, being separated from your family, starving, your bones almost coming through your skin. And then when you're sitting there in a concentration camp, smelling the ashes of human skin as they burn in ovens. That's Hitler. That's what they compare Trump to. A man who has donated to charity, supported the poor, supported people of all colors his entire lifetime. A man who served 4 years, who did not one negative or bad thing to any group in the United States. They're going to compare him to a Hitler. Well, what did they do? They took what was an amazing event at Madison Square Garden, and instead of reporting, and they didn't have to fall in love with it, but instead of reporting about it in the way that it should be reported, saying, hey, you know what? Trump, you got to give him credit. He's fighting in New York where they want to kill him. And yet he's drawing in not only 20,000 people inside, but there's another 70,000 people outside in the streets wanting to see this guy. He's got a powerful message, and we should probably accept that for what it is and wonder why it's happening. Instead, the left, especially MSNBC and Tim Walz, tried to paint a comparison between the rally of yesterday and one that took place 85 years ago in New York City, which was tagged a pro-America event, but was really filled with Nazi sympathizers. How it is that they're going to compare 20,000 people wearing MAGA hats to people who had a SWAT sticker is beyond me, but somehow, some way, they get away with it. Ryan, play the clip of MSNBC.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. When a Jewish protester rushed the stage, the Associated Press reported, quote, instantly, a dozen or more stormtroopers set upon him, knocking him down and beating him as he held his head in his arms. Most of his clothing was torn from his body. Later, he was booked for disorderly conduct. Now, against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump, the man who has threatened to use the military against opponents he calls enemies from within, who has threatened to use the troops to quell what he says are lawless cities, and to use those troops to carry out mass deportations of immigrants, is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
Denny, somehow, some way, Heil Hitler has become synonymous with Make America Great Again? How does that work?
It doesn't. And what doesn't make sense to me, right? I mean, I even have the list here. Franklin D. Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, Lyndon B. Johnson, Richard Nixon, Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton. All of those presidents have had rallies or major campaign events at Madison Square Garden. So why is it that they have to fixate on Trump and make the comparison to Hitler with that rally, which is crazy to me because one thing, too, that I've noticed that they are not making a distinction on, Hitler did not commence that 1939 rally at Madison Square Garden. It was a bunch of Nazi sympathizers and people who ran an American sector party, but they just keep using as if Hitler, like they're really trying to equate Trump standing at his dais in Madison Square Garden as if Hitler was doing it in 1939 at Madison Square Garden when he wasn't. So this comparison is just so far-fetched, but also just kind of not surprising at this point because I think, the momentum has clearly shifted to Trump. As you said, he has owned this week. Kamala is flailing at every level. I mean, if you turn back the clocks 10 years to 2014, and if you told me that the host of Fear Factor would be interviewing the host of The Apprentice and it'd be watched by hundreds of millions of people, followed by a rally that would have Hulk Hogan and Elon Musk as the speakers, and by the way, Democrat supporters like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, you'd be like, what the hell reality did we end up in? But that's where we are because we have seen what the years of Obama have done. We have seen what they have pulled with 2020, with giving it to Biden when, clearly that shouldn't have been the case. So, he's got the momentum and enthusiasm. Who wouldn't want to have the event at Madison Square Garden to top it off? So this idea that the mainstream media is trying to use that event as, oh, this is Trump's call for his Nazi supporters is beyond absurd. But I think the good news is that if you're a rational human being, it's not working. I think you're seeing, as you laid out, the pathetic, simplification and the correlation here of Hitler's rally in 1939, again, not actually organized by Hitler, to Trump. It's just not working.
If you have a young child who still believes on the guy who arrives on December 25th, cover their ears right now, please, because I don't want to be a spoiler for the holiday coming up. When you're a kid and you're told that there's a Santa, you believe in it because you want to believe in it. And it's the greatest lie ever told in the sense that it's the one that you're allowed to get away with because ultimately you're making people feel good. But at some point you have to believe that there's not a Santa because you figure it out. Wait a second, my house doesn't have a chimney. How's he coming down the chimney, right? Or if you do have a chimney, it's like, wait a second, how does a guy who's 300 pounds come down the chimney and reindeers really fly? And the point is that at some point that narrative has to come to a conclusion for anybody who has any level of sanity. And I can't think of a single 25, 35, 45, 65, or 85-year-old that has ever walked the face of the earth that still believes in Santa Claus. With that said, despite the fact that Trump has never killed anybody, he's never put anybody in an oven, let alone a Jew, somehow, some way, they keep on making that comparison. And full-fledged adults with full-formed brains not only believe it, but sell it. And so in the same way that if one of your friends who's 30 years old came over and started talking about Santa Claus, and I'd pull you to the side and say, what is wrong with that person and why are you hanging out with them? Get away. I say the same thing about these crazy liberals. How is it that any producer, how is it that any head of NBC, CBS, ABC can sit there and allow his network to put out that sort of nonsense, insanity, and evilness and think that that's good television? How? I can't understand it. And that's why I say each and every week, these people, when they die, we've got to do autopsies, because until we do, we're never going to figure out what it is that's poisoning the liberal brain.
Look, I mean, I think I think at this point, it has to be a mix of people who know it's absolutely wrong, but are just so hell-bent on keeping their jobs at the big old CNN, MSNBC. But I think it's even more so now when you got the Rachel Maddows and the Brian Stelters and all those guys. To your point, that there is just something not clicking. But it's en masse with the media. I mean, even the Kamala thing with Beyonce, right? It's either one of three things. Either one, there was major miscommunication. I don't believe that was the case. Or two, there was coordination to lie about Beyonce performing between the mainstream media and Kamala's campaign. Or three, the Kamala campaign, which I think maybe this is the one, lied to them saying that Beyonce would perform knowing she was never going to. I mean, those videos spell it out. You got people who probably are so not enthused about Kamala, but hey, we're in Houston and it's Beyonce, her hometown. Of course, we're going to go hear her perform. They get there. She speaks for 4 minutes, as you mentioned, absolutely lame. Her mom was even worse. She even says, like, I can't read the teleprompter. Could someone fix it? It was just a mess. So you go there and you're like, wow, they can't even organize or advertise this correctly. We heard she was singing. She's not. They leave. So that's the Kamala campaign in a nutshell. It's these false promises, and we'll say whatever we can to get you over here, but then we don't deliver. So when you got Madison Square Garden where it says, hey, we're not going to gimmick, we're going to get all these people who are actually enthusiastically supporting Trump. I mean, look, right? Beyonce comes out, 4 minutes, leaves. You got Elon Musk like camping out in Pennsylvania, the touting for Trump. So like his support is actually enthusiastic. I even have the theory that a lot of these celebrities don't want to issue the support, and then they get contacted like, hey, Leonardo DiCaprio, we got 2 weeks. She's struggling. We need you to say something. Oh, do I really have to? Yeah, well, those directors that you want to be in the next few movies with? Well, if you want those deals done, show Kamala some support here. I have to believe that's that. I don't think a lot of these people actually are enthusiastic about it. But then I think there is a mix of people that are just deluded about her. And then, to your point, we really need those autopsies.
Well, proof in the pudding here is that, Elon Musk is doing more than just showing up at Trump rallies, jumping up and down like an enthusiastic, kid who just won the Super Bowl. And, going to rallies for the sake of hearing himself speak and seeing how big of a crowd he could draw, which, by the way, he's drawing pretty big crowds. He is literally giving away $1 million a day to people who will sign a petition for support of free speech and free speech and the right to bear arms, First and Second Amendment. Beyonce and Jay-Z, they're billionaires. Now, they may not be as rich as Elon, but why not give away $100,000 a day to support abortion and more the other different stuff that you do? So they're not putting their money where their mouth is, where Elon Musk is. And, same thing with Trump. I mean, Trump always puts his money where his mouth is, and you got to love that. And one of the things, there's many clips from last night. We could play a lot of them. A lot of them would just be the same thing you've already heard before, which is all great stuff out of Trump. But we got a clip of something where he's talking about something relatively new, about putting more money into people's pockets. These are for people who are caretakers. And Ryan has the clip, and it's an indication that Trump, unlike Kamala Harris, who wants to take money out of your pocket, Trump wants to put money back in your pocket. Play the clip, Ryan.
And I'm announcing a new policy today that I will support a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of a parent or a loved one. It's about time that they were recognized, right? They add so much to our country and are never spoken of, ever, 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 but they're going to be spoken of now. Thank you all very much.
I was going to say, he did a few policies there in terms of announcements. I mean, he even said, when it came to the deportations, besides saying send them all the hell back,
Yep.
he said, if you're a migrant and you come over here and you kill an American, you should get the death penalty. Even with the flag burning, because that's become so just inexplicably intolerable. And he said, you burn the flag, 1 year in prison. So clearly him and his campaign are showing determination. Whereas Kamala is definitely desperation, because I know you've seen it. Some of the ads that they have put out in the last few days, I mean, the masturbation one is one, but then they did one for Asian Americans. And when they put Trump on screen, they showed the internment camps for the Japanese and then a 1980s murder that has no connection to Trump. It is clear they're getting very desperate.
I want to explain what you're talking about the masturbation ad. And I'm sorry, especially for people who are offended by this kind of chat. But I got to tell you what the other team is doing. We're not going to show it to you because it's that grotesque, but I'm going to give you what the visualization is because you need to understand how low these people will go in order to be able to do what they have to do to destroy Trump and win an election. Imagine a 30-second ad where a young man in his early 20s is laying in his bed, the covers are over him, and on his phone in his right hand, he is watching porn. You can't see the porn, but you could hear the sounds of sex going on, the kind of overly dramatic, sensationalized sounds that you hear from something like porn. And his other hand is he's masturbating. And you can tell that this is the case. There's no question about it. And all of a sudden, in comes a older white gentleman, probably in his late 60s, and he says, "Stop doing that." And the kid says, "Get out of here, get out of here." And he says, "No, I'm not getting out of here. I'm the Republican senator, and this is coming to an end." That is the 30-second commercial to try to sway young men that will not support Kamala Harris at any level, try to convince them that you should vote for Kamala Harris and Democrats because they're going to keep you porn and the Republicans are going to take it away from you. This is how desperate they are. And this ad is being allowed to be shown, which is absolutely insane. Okay? Insane. I mean, I'll give you an example, Dennis. I had somebody the other day as a joke, this is a team member on Facebook, write to me, "You're an idiot." And I wrote back, "You're ugly." Facebook took the comment down and said it went against their policies. But this masturbation ad is not a problem? I don't get it. It is a perfect example of how disconnected the left is, how satanic they are, how demonic they are, and how they have no care or concern for what child may actually see this thing floating around the internet. It's just, because I could see some kids saying, "Mommy, what's he doing? Mommy, what's that about?" And now some mother or father has to try to explain to their young child, maybe 9 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old, what the hell they just saw on television. It's not like you're trying to talk a 3-year-old out of it who ain't even going to be checking out. I mean, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, what is that? And so this is the left. This is the kind of stuff they pull. Now, one of the things you talked about for a second there was about how Trump talked about illegal immigration, about how it is that he wants to have the death penalty for any illegal alien who kills a cop or who kills an American citizen. And I am 100% behind that. However, I'd like to see it so this way nobody can kill anybody. Let's get rid of these people. Let's deport them. Mass deportation. This isn't racist. We could start deporting all the Irish, German, and Italian that are in the country illegally. I'll be the first one to volunteer if he needs extra people to find them. Last night, 60 Minutes runs a whole segment trying to make it sound like deportation is inhumane and, of course, can't afford it. And thank goodness a representative from Trump's surrogate team is up there. You've seen him on Fox News a whole bunch of times. This man, Mr. Homan, gets up there and absolutely hits a grand slam with his answer. Ryan, play the video.
We have seen one estimate that says it would cost $88 billion to deport 1 million people a year.
I don't know if that's accurate or not.
Is that what American taxpayers should expect?
What price do you put on national security? Is it worth it?
Is there a way to carry out mass deportation without separating families?
Of course there is. Families can be deported together.
Dennis, I've said it to you before in the show. I've said it for a very long time. For some reason, you get all these flags, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, Democrats, all Black Lives Matter. And then yet and I'll just use a name, let's just say Jerome, who's got 2 kids at home, gets nailed for, a crime. They don't sit there and say, well, we can't send Jerome to jail because he's got 2 kids at home. We can't separate a family. Jerome's going to jail.
Yeah.
But when it comes to illegal aliens, we've got to play this game of we don't want to separate families. And he says it straight out, send them all home. That's how we could solve the problem.
Yeah. Jerome robs the bank, goes home, says he can't be separated. It's like, no, that's not the case. You're going to prison. Well, the illegal immigrant robbed America by coming in. That literally they broke the law. You always talk about it as a father, consequences, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to do a certain action, you got to live with the consequences. And it's funny. I mean, CBS must be so tone deaf because they're trying to go with that angle of like, oh, how inhumane. And he's just like, they can join them, or if they really love America that much, they can stay and, something can be figured out if they're, the anchor baby legal citizen. And that's a whole thing I know that we have an opinion on, but they're going to try and portray it as if this is this impossible thing that can't be done when it can be. It can be done if you have the will and you have the way to do it. And I think Trump can. And I'm telling you, I'm hoping day one he's got something in order to enact that plan of mass deportation.
The other thing I want to talk about too is that they try to position it as if this is such an expensive thing to do and that the American people don't want another bill. Well, I could give you a couple of solutions to this $88 billion to deport 1 million people. First of all, it doesn't need to be like that. Cut off the incentives, cut off the jobs, tell people they got 3 months to get their affairs in order, or they're going to wind up being deported and their money's going to be confiscated. Watch how many of these people self-deport, which costs us zero. When you're beyond that, if you still got millions of people left over, and I'm sure you would, if it really does cost $88 billion to send 1 million people home, well, let me tell you what it's costing the United States right now to keep them here. It costs us $150 billion each and every year for the same illegal aliens and then more to come in. The number always goes up. It never goes down. So it's costing us $150 billion every single year, ongoing. That's not putting the price on crime, the price on not being able to get a job because somebody took it from you, not being able to get educated the right way because you've got teachers who have to spend more time with the illegal aliens who don't speak English than you, doesn't put the price tag on a life that's stolen or a life that's raped. Those don't fit on a spreadsheet. But if we're just going to go straight up, we got $150 billion to educate them, to feed them, to house them, to do the hospital stays, everything else, or $88 billion on a one-time hit to get rid of them. It actually would cost us less to deport them all than it would to keep them all. And I wish somebody would actually give that answer one day on television.
It makes sense. And, I think Trump understands the mentality. A big thing that he discussed on Joe Rogan was the decision to leave that expensive military equipment in or what was it? It was Afghanistan, I think.
Yeah.
And General Milley was like, oh, no, it's actually more expensive to take it out. And Trump was like, no, it would be actually least expensive because you're also giving them equipment they don't deserve and they're going to use for nefarious purposes, like just common sense. And yet you got someone like, Milley who ends up, being more liberal than intended, trying to say otherwise. So it just, I don't know, it makes sense. And I'm glad, Homan is sticking by his guns there. And I hope he is a big part of the Trump administration.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't up for Homeland Security.
Yeah.
No doubt about that whatsoever.
Yep.
Let's switch gears here for a second. Because right now we're sort of drinking the Kool-Aid that says, hey, Trump's on a roll. At best, the polls show that they're breaking even, the two of them, which does not bode well for Kamala Harris. Typically, even the New York Times says this, that the Republicans will always win that electoral count, but the popular vote is going to wind up going to the Democrat. Well, that may not be the case, because right now polls, which are always tilted, are showing at best that they're break even. So Trump does show a great advantage, but there's always the steal, and we're going to talk about that towards the end of the show. If the steal is in place, Kamala Harris may wind up being the most dangerous, only maybe second place to Barack Obama, the most dangerous politician of all time. And I can tell you right now that leading up to this weekend, I have always been very nervous about what America will look like, what it will operate as for not only me and my children and my grandchildren, but for society as a whole. I can tell you, after watching the 4-minute ad that we're about to play right now, I have gone from being concerned and nervous to literally frightened of what happens if this woman somehow comes out as the president of the United States. Play the video.
Dear Kamala Harris, let's get one thing crystal clear. The vast majority of American men have no issue with electing a female president. Our issue lies solely with you. You were second in charge of California for 13 years.
As California's Attorney General, Harris promoted enforcement of a law that allowed prosecutors to seek jail time for parents of truant kids.
As a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, how can you lock parents up?
If you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
I opened the door and I see at least 7 or 8 cops that wanted to arrest me. As a matter of fact, they did.
And frankly, the prosecutors in my office who volunteered to do this? My homicide prosecutors, my gang prosecutors. And they went over there and I said, when you go over there, look really mean.
She had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I learned that with the swipe of my pen, I could charge someone with the lowest level offense. That person could be arrested. They could lose time from work and their family maybe lose their job. They'd have to come out of their own pocket to help hire a lawyer. They'd lose standing in their community.
I lost my job and couldn't pay rent, and we got evicted.
Weeks later, I could dismiss the charges, but their life would forever be changed.
I became homeless. We had to move into a motel.
All because of the swipe of my pen.
I don't agree what Kamala Harris did to my mom, and I don't agree with what she's done to other parents as well.
You were second in charge of the United States for 4 years.
If anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Inflation is hitting the highest level in 39 years. A record high number of illegal crossings.
Crime's been surging across the nation.
Huge spikes in homicides.
Could we be heading toward World War III? After 17 years of failed leadership, you're now asking us to trust you as first in charge of our country.
I am concerned and focused on big issues. Elementary and middle school truancy is actually a big issue. If we're trying to save the state money, because of truancy, California public schools lose $1.4 billion a year in funding. I want money.
My message to all Americans, do not trust Kamala Harris.
As men and protectors of women and children, you are simply a risk we are not willing to take.
That right there is pure evil. That is a video that every American needs to see before Election Day.
You know, she does the swipe of her pen, and I just can't fathom to think that it must be a wand, like for an evil witch, because who does that? You know, I mean, she's gleeful about it, and it's. But you're right. Every American needs to see it because that is going to be indicative of what her presidency would look like. You know,
there is an evil, there is an anger within her that is synonymous with a Democrat. It is. There's something in the eyes that says to you something's not firing correctly behind the eyes. And that's why so many times we see Democrats who carry out such evil, sinister things.
And I think, too, when you do live such a artificial and particular lifestyle, I mean, even Tucker Carlson last night at the Madison Square Garden rally was like, you know, Kamala kissed her husband through her mask. Like, think about, like, would you ever do that to mom? No, you wouldn't even wear the damn mask, but
No,
you wouldn't do that, right? You know, or even Tim Walz when he's shaking his wife's hand, it just looks so fake, and there is just an overall fakeness to her. And I think as a person, when you live such a fake life and every aspect of your life is fake, you lose a complete sense of empathy. And I think for her, she just can't empathize with actual Americans hurting or suffering, whereas with Trump, you can actually see it when he talks to people. You can see it like when he goes into a Chick-fil-A, when he goes in, you know, to a rally. You can see the empathy. You don't see it with her.
Well, my son, you just made a great segue to the next clip. You want to talk about fake? Kamala Harris has faked every single accent possible. She's tried to sound like a hip hop artist. She's tried to sound like somebody that comes from Georgia. She's tried everything. But my favorite of them all is her latest one, where she tries to sound as if she is a preacher or a prophet or a pastor. Ryan, play this one and try not to laugh.
Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. The path may seem hard, the work may seem heavy, but joy cometh in the morning, and church morning is on its way.
I mean, come on, man. Come on, man. This is the same woman who, you know, just last week has been telling people who are, you know, pro-Jesus, pro-life, you're at the wrong rally, go down the block, right? But you know what, Dennis? They're all like this. It's just not Kamala Harris. It's Kamala Harris and the people who vote for her. I mean, we're going to talk about election integrity in a second, but I don't want us to get caught up in thinking that 80 million people vote for Trump and only 2 million people vote for Kamala Harris and the rest is cheating. We have a big problem in this country. First of all, we've got about 65 million people who are on entitlements. They're going to vote to keep that money in many cases. And number two is you've got people who are just downright same thing, demonic and not firing correctly. We got a video here. It's been going viral all weekend long. This woman put a video of herself up. I believe it was on TikTok. She's outraged that the Muslim community and the Muslim mayor in a town in Michigan actually said they are going to support Donald J. Trump. Here is the biggest threat to America, as far as I'm concerned, which is the white, liberal female. Listen to what this woman says.
Okay, talk me down. I just heard that the mayor of Michigan and the Arab Muslim community of Michigan are supporting Trump. Do they not remember that he said he wanted to deport all Muslims? Are you nuts? Wait until you see what he does if you get what you want. And by the way, this has to be nothing but sexism. A woman president, oh, holy shit, no. That's all it could be, because otherwise it's plain stupidity.
So I have a scary feeling prediction. Take away the legal immigrant aspect of, you know, those coming in and trying to make it a by vote situation.
Mm-hmm.
Some analyses that I've seen is that because of how much Trump has won over support with Black and Latino men, that apparently the core demographic that could be determinant in how the election plays out is white women. If white women end up voting Republican as they have predominantly over time, or has there really been that mass liberalization of white women to where they would feel the support towards Kamala because she's a woman of color?
Do
you
what
think that could be? Yeah.
No, what I think has happened. First of all, I don't think there's any more undecided voters. If you're an undecided voter at this point in time, you've got bigger problems than who to elect. But I think that you've watched the liberals go further to the left, and I think you've seen the people who are centrists or maybe a little right of center go far more to the right. I don't mean far right, where they're wearing Ku Klux Klan sheets. That's
no one's doing that.
Right. Well, no, that's what they try to make. I mean, look, they're using Hitler references. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm talking about they're more steadfast in their support of Trump, where they'll say something like, "I don't care if he cheated on his wives. I don't care if he had a couple of failed, businesses, and I don't care if he talks about Arnold Palmer, what he looks like in the shower. I'm not hiring a husband, a priest, or somebody to watch my kid at school. I'm hiring a person to get America back on track, to tell Vladimir Putin to cut the shit, to tell Xi Jinping, you're done, and Iran, I'm going to blow you to smithereens." That's where we are at this point. So you need somebody who's willing to throw his elbows around, and I think there's a lot of women. I mean, listen to your mom. Your mom's not a violent person. She's always nice. She never says anything bad about anybody, except for Kamala Harris and Hillary Clinton. The two of them, she's like, and she'll say, "Hey, look, I love Trump. I want Trump." So the women who I hear that I talk to that would never say anything about politics are now talking up and speaking up. But it is this crazy left female movement that seems to be behind the biggest signs of hatred that we see. And we've got another clip here that's just whoa over the top. This happened outside of Houston, Texas. I'd say the girl looks like she's in her young 20s. She's a radical lefty, and I guess she's going up to somebody who is not a lefty, and she literally screams at this man's little baby in a stroller, uncontrollable, to where she's got to actually be stopped by another one of her fellow Democrats. Play this video, Ryan.
Are you ashamed at all? Are you ashamed? No, everyone look at her face.
See, that's demonic. That's there's something firing in her brain incorrectly.
I'm willing to bet all the money I have that she's a Taylor Swift fan and listener. Like, I just, I mean, the idea that you could just go up to someone's child like that, like when I saw that video over the weekend, I thought, I'm like, can I imagine like what that would be like if you were with Kelly in a stroller and so
she goes down. She's going down.
It is insane. It is actually insanity. I mean, if you saw that at a Trump rally, you'd be like, get out of here. Like you don't like whose brain? And they've been trying to identify this woman.
Oh, they'll find her.
They'll find her. And some have already said that she might be this woman who is a Democrat organizer for the campaign. And I wouldn't be shocked. I think they hire those kind of people. But you need to draw back and be like, what drives me to the point that I'm going to scream at a man's child because of my own selfish reasons over a political scheme? It's crazy to me.
Well, let me tell you. I mean, first of all, if I was there, and let's say, for instance, that was your sister, Alex. Not your aunt. Let's say it was your sister, Kelly.
Yes.
And she's in the stroller, and I'm there with your mother. You don't have to worry about what I'm doing. Your mother's going to wreck that woman.
Oh, yeah.
You're not going to get in front of my child like that. But to your point, there's something wrong, and that video is going to live forever. That when they find out who she is, that's going to stick on her forever. But there is a general, this is where everybody thinks I'm joking when I say the autopsy thing, and I'm not. There is a general problem with liberals that you do not get with conservatives. It's the same reason why I've said this a million times. When you look at radio and podcasting from the audio standpoint, there's never ever a liberal station or a liberal show that is in the top rankings, and it's because the liberal brain can't focus in on the words being said and the message being given. They need the visual. They need that stimulation. There's something wrong in their head.
Totally. I saw this graphic on Instagram, like, how they could do like the little post graphics, and it's mostly been shared by white women that some I know and then some I don't, but I'm seeing it just be shared.
Mm-hmm.
And it's asked the questions like, how do you tell the woman in your life that you're voting for a man who doesn't believe in their rights? And it's just like this insane nonsense guilt trip that doesn't make any sense when you actually get to the crux of it. Like, what are you talking about? Trump's going to take the women's rights. He's had women in his cabinet, he's campaigning with women. Like, he's worked with women. Like, it is crazy, but like they just can't see past like the first level. And it's absolutely, I don't know how you make that disconnect to reality.
This is why some people who have been traditionally on the left, like Bill Ackerman, who's a billionaire, right? Who's always on MSNBC and stuff. This is why you're watching a lot of people who have historically voted blue now coming over to red. Tulsi Gabbard, you talk about, Kennedy Jr. They're doing it because they haven't lost their marbles. They are old world Democrats, and they hear the lies like Trump is going to put a national ban on abortion, and they say he never said that. Same thing with the whole Project 2025. That's sort of burnt out recently because how many times does Trump have to say, I have no idea what's even in it?
And I have to say, I think old-time Democrats are definitely going through an identity crisis in the same way that I think Republicans did when you had your Romneys and McCains and they started going with policies that you were like, wait a minute, this is not what I support. You're not representing me. I think you got those old-time Democrats. I mean, when I interviewed Michael Cutler, he even said it, and he touts, about him being a Democrat, and he's like, I don't recognize my own party today.
Absolutely.
So it really is an identity crisis of seeing the crazies of your party take it to such a left extreme that you got to wonder, like, where do I belong? And that's, to your point, why RFK Juniors and their supporters have gone over to Trump, because there's common sense there.
Talking about crisis, we're about to bring up the last video of the day before we wrap up the show here, and it's one that you're not going to want to miss. It is very disturbing because this election is more than just who's the better candidate. This election, I think, once again, is going to come down to, can we catch him cheating? Before we play this video that's out of Pennsylvania, a swing state, by the way, let me just give you a couple things you need to know. First of all, today is the first day of the site-wide BOGO for DML CBD. Now, I don't know who's going to win the election next week. My prayer is obviously Trump. My scare is that it's going to be Kamala, especially after you hear this next story. And I know for a fact that if Kamala does pull this out one way or another, cheat or through people voting for her, I'm not going to be able to do BOGOs anymore, which is a buy one, get one free. So I'm doing this now in preparation. We haven't had a site-wide BOGO in a couple months, and this will probably be the last one we have for quite some time, no matter who wins, let alone if she wins, it may be the last one. Go to dmlcbd.com/BOGO, BOGO. Everything on the site is a buy one, get one free. Everything. We don't have a lot of inventory. I know we're going to sell out of all of it. You may even go there and see that some stuff is gone. Do not wait. Once the show's over in the next 10 minutes, go there and grab what you can. dmlcbd.com/BOGO. If you're not a DML CBD user and you have skin issues, you have sleep issues, you have stuff with your immune system, you want to boost the immune system, you've got aches and pains, like I said, you're not sleeping, there's no reason why you need to be like that. We have the greatest CBD products in the world. dmlcbd.com/BOGO. Give yourself a chance to feel great again. Now, with that said, we're going to have podcasts all week long at our normal time between 10:30 and 11 o'clock. And then we're also going to be doing a half-hour show later in the day for Team DML members. That will be on Team DML at 7 p.m. Eastern every night going throughout the week. So you want to make sure that you are, if you're a Team DML member, take a note. We're going to be sending out alerts on that. You'll be able to know when it is. And please ask everybody you know to take a look at our podcast and give us some support here. So this way we could stick around when this election is over. That said, Pennsylvania is a huge swing state, maybe the most important swing state there is in the country. And the concern is that these swing states have very bad actors. In fact, in the last election in 2020, I remember the Attorney General for Pennsylvania told Trump ahead of time, there's no way you're going to win Pennsylvania. Well, what did he know? Well, turns out to be that there's a county called Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and the officials have found that approximately 60%, that's 60%, in other words, the majority of ballot applications that were submitted were fraudulent. That was just discovered. We're going to play the video here for you in full, the little press conference explaining what's going on, because it's not just in Lancaster. They're finding it in other counties as well. Ryan, play the video.
Good morning, everyone. District Attorney Heather Adams. On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that the Elections Office received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, excuse me, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. So before I begin to summarize our preliminary findings, I must remind everyone that this is an ongoing investigation, and for that reason, I will be limited in the details that I can provide. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs. At this point, it is believed that the fraudulent voter registrations are connected to a large-scale canvassing operations for voter registrations that date back to June. However, the majority of the applications received are dated August 15th and after. Those canvassing for voter registrations were employed and paid to obtain voter registration applications. The majority of the applications were from residents in the city of Lancaster. However, applications were also received from residents in Columbia, Elizabethtown, Mountjoy, Akron, Ephrata, Stevens, Strasburg, as well as other locations across Lancaster County. The canvasses themselves took place at various shopping centers, parking lots of grocery stores and businesses, sidewalks, and parks. During this preliminary investigations, detectives were able to verify some of the applications were indeed legitimate. In these instances, the applicant verified that they did provide information to a canvasser. For these applications, we will immediately advise voter registration and that we confirm that they are legitimate requests, and voter registration will process that application. Thus far, of the investigations that we have completed, we have determined that 60% have been fraudulent. That is of the investigations that we've completed. We do have more to do today, and my understanding is that voter registration is still going through the box of 2,500, but should be completed sometime here today. As I said, the investigation is ongoing. We are aware of at least 2 other counties that received similar applications that are currently being investigated. At this point, we have confirmed violation of our crimes code as well as our elections code. We have all available detectives working on this. We are all hands on deck so that we can properly assess the validity of these applications in a timely manner. If needed, we will request additional assistance from our local police departments.
So just as my last statement on this, from watching the rally last night with Ryan, I came away with it saying to Ryan, like, I'm under the belief he is going to win. Like, nothing will convince me otherwise that he is the winner. I mean, she does not pull that, meaning Kamala, that he is the winner. Just anyone in my life, I could just tell, like, he is going to win. The question becomes, will they allow him to win? And things like what we just watched in that video are my concerns as to what's going to prevent him from actually taking the presidency, because they're going to try these manipulations with 60% is crazy. So my thing is that if you already voted, make sure you get that receipt. Make sure that if you're in a swing state, you're talking to those in your community to see how they voted, and those that are on your voting election board, town council. You want to be annoying about it. You want to make sure that everything was accounted for, no wrong tabulations, no forged signatures or petitions. Like, be on them like white on rice. Like, you need to make sure, especially if you're in a swing state in a critical county like Lancaster, you want to make sure that it is airtight. And if they're not answering your questions, then make noise about them not answering your questions. Like, we need to make sure the expression lives on. It is too big, too rig.
Yeah. I mean, when you watch something like that, not only does it concern you for this election, but it makes you feel like it happened last election. We've all thought it. We've all been told we're crazy. We were spreading the big lie. We had our posts taken down off every social media aspect. YouTube would take down videos. Facebook takes down posts. Twitter puts on you on a shadow ban list. And here it is. We're seeing it happen in full color. And it's why, as I look back, and I just watched the Reagan documentary the other day, and you could see why Reagan took 49 of the 50 states, notwithstanding he lost Minnesota. And you sit there and you say, Trump should be taking 50 states, or at least 40. You got to sit there and just wonder whether or not he can take even half when they're capable of doing that. How many people will not report that? How many people will help that in talking about officials? So it's a very scary time. You got to, the best thing you could do, I guess, and it sounds kind of lame in terms of taking action, but the best thing you could do is pray and hope that we get it. And that's what Tiffany Justice said last night in her opening prayer at Madison Square Garden. She sent me her script, and she said, we pray for a fair election. And you just got to hope that God has his hand on this. If you go back to Butler, Pennsylvania, it seems like he has had his hand on it. So maybe he's going to make it so this way we can finally get to a place where we can make America great again.
I just want to say, too, really quick, I mean, the Democrats have a lot of weak positions. I personally believe their weakest one has always been the voter ID. If you have a Democrat in your life, ask them flat out, why is it that you need an ID for almost anything, whether you want a permit, whether you want to drive, whether you want to do this or that, or a license. And yet when it comes to voting, why is it that, like, you don't see it anywhere else in any other, Western civilization? But for us, we have states that don't require it. And see what their answer is. Why can't they provide the answer?
I think Elon Musk retweeted a great meme over the weekend. It's a police officer pulling over somebody and says, I'm going to need to see your license and registration, please. And the guy says, I'm sorry, I don't have my license. I'm voting today.
Yeah, it's true, though.
It's pretty good.
And that's the thing. When they can't give you an actual answer to it, then you know why they want that way. It's cheating.
All right, that's it for us. Great job today, Ryan. A lot of clips. Thank you for sticking with us. We try to give you a little bit of a longer show today. Probably be like that every day this week. Again, just a rundown for you in case you didn't already read it. Our newsletter puts out information every single day. If you want to get our newsletter, go to DennisMichaelLynch.com. Sign up for free. You'll get it for free, ad-free. If you want to join and be Team DML, please go to teamdml.com. We're offering a membership for just $30 for the year. It usually costs $200. You save yourself $170. That offer ends on Election Day. On election night, we're going to be broadcasting for 4 hours from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock live on teamdml.com, which is for members only. Also, this week, every single day, we'll be going live in the afternoon, the early mornings like we are right now. But then later in the day at 7 o'clock, we'll be doing a half-hour show for Team DML members only. You could also get the audio version of our shows on the DML News app, which you could download for free from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And then last but not least, as I said a couple minutes ago, today is the first day of the site-wide, which means all products on the website are buy one, get one free. Go to DMLCBD.com/BOGO, BOGO. That's it for us. On behalf of Ryan and on Denny and all of Team DML, we wish America the very best, God's blessings, and also may God bless Donald J. Trump.
And today's Team DML blessing goes out to Barbara Bond.
All right, Barbara, enjoy it. Talk to you soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.